Welcome back to some professional Starcraft 2. Two of the fastest, best, brightest, and boldest players in the entire world. The quarterfinals of ASUS ROG, one of the final premier tournaments. There's so many goddamn tournaments in 2020, as instead of a few major tournaments, they're all a little more spread out, like all of us should be and have been. But let me first introduce you to, this could be the finals of almost any tournament, but they meet here. No, not yet. Okay, we're starting over here in the bottom right, the fastest player in the entire world. It's Reynor. Regularly, usually over 500 APM, and sometimes over 6. Just blisteringly, literally and figuratively fast. Hopefully he has more insurance on his wrists than he does that he won't be getting proxy raxed by the player on the top left. He's won more GSLs than anyone else, though TY sharing that now. The man whose plan is almost always to build his barracks on another land. And right now having a tough time making that be the... Well, you know, maybe I shouldn't spend 3 minutes introducing as the proxy rex. It's Maru. You guys know Maru. Everyone knows Maru. That's why you're here. It's Maru. Reynor, on the other hand, just shuts down his SCV. One of the two, which is almost more... It's not worse than not getting either. Because you get submarines out, you are a threat. And Reynor pulled drones a long way. This is a long way away. He's looking for it. It's Maru. Like, you know Maru's going to proxy, like, the first game of a series, he's going to proxy on match point. He's also going to proxy after a loss and usually after a win. So, it wasn't a huge stretch. And you definitely, I'm convinced now, like, players definitely scout way more against Maru. Even more than other Terrans. Like, sometimes in TVP, you'll send a probe out. No. Like, people are drone scouting against Maru. Because when it pays off, at least you survive that a little bit longer. And not surprising to see Reynor now. Well, the drone's halfway across the map. Might as well go the rest of the way. Valuable information to find on the high ground. A factory starting. Maru with the Reaper micro. Finds a drone. Reynor not able to get the Spore Crawler off. Reaper almost dies itself. Another drone died on the other side at the murderous hands of an SCV. That puts Reynor down too, and a lot of mining time. And so Maru's just going to, he's just going to make 3 CCs. He's going to go from having no units into continuing to have no units and relying on 1 Reaper. He's going to have a factory, but without a reactor. He has to build the reactor, delaying it even further. Essentially gambling that Reynor's not going to do anything to punish him. And this is kind of how you have to do it. It's either you build the command center too early, they can't punish it, or you're just on tomb base. You don't want to take a safe command center, like anything that's in the middle ground just gives an advantage to Reynor, because Zerg, if they know they can be greedy, can really focus on that. But Maru has gotten his 3rd CC faster than the 3rd hatch. Like, there's Zerg can expand more quickly than Terran, and then there's that. And remember, command centers cost 400 to 300. So Reynor, I think, correctly has determined, yeah, you can't just go 3CC. Like, into Viking. You can't just not build any units. That's not how it works. It might be how it works in Korea. But so Reynor's gonna make roaches. And there's what is he gonna do? Land the Viking? Maru, this is almost entirely Maru's strategy, and this is a valid way to play. When your all-in failed, let's draw those poker parallels here. When your all-in fails... Okay, I guess all-in doesn't really work directly, but when you gamble that much on a proxy rex and it doesn't pay off, you're not going to get out of it by playing it safe. And right now, Maru sees the roaches and realizes that he is going to be challenged. He is going to have to deal with units. He didn't go for a Banshee first, but instead he went into Viking, which is the greediest thing. What, are you going to kill Overlords? Meanwhile, the Zerglings looking for a wraparound and reveal their presence. There are bunkers, but how? There's one Marine. The bunkers are mostly here to look intimidating as opposed to actually do anything. I think Reynor immediately realizing that there's only one Marine in that bunker. Viking on the deck. Banshees in production. Corrosive Bio gonna find the SCVs. The bunkers ripped to pieces nearly immediately. The Hellions on the high ground, desperate to get anything done. A Banshee finally comes out to, well, hopefully save the day, but at what cost? It looks like Maru won't die, but what does he have left to live for? The depot's falling, but it's not like the Lings can come up there. He loses 11 SCVs. The Banshee will eventually clean this up. Now, a 3cc Terran is never dead. Mules are a huge part of the early game Terran economy, especially when you've lost SCVs. They're a stopgap against the worker difference. But this is not like 5 or 10 workers, which is usually a more standard level of disparity. This is 25. And while the mules go a long way to shore that up, Reynor will continue building drones. He will continue expanding. He will continue spreading creep, which Maru's able to shorten a little. But there's a lot of space created there. And yeah, I don't think Reynor's intent was to win the game outright, but it was to take a significant advantage. And if enough damage is done, Maru might just tap out. He's got Banshees to play with. Oh my god, Reynor, calm down. He's getting that Spore Crawler that he couldn't get earlier. Yeah. 500 versus 420 APM. I mean, there's a lot of micro to be done right now. Reynor says, well, the first round didn't do it. I agree. Here's a couple dozen more roaches. And this time they got +1/+1 on the way. Banshee barely lives. Zerglings on the third. Find, well, I don't know how many more SCVs. 3 now. They killed off. And that's not usually a huge factor, but everyone is precious. When it rains, it pours. And right now, Maru is bleeding out so many workers. Reynor not going to give him space to breathe. He keeps playing this just aggressive. You don't want to let Maru breathe now. You took him to the mat here. I don't know why I'm using that. We switched from poker into, I don't know, boxing, fighting. That is not... Okay, the Overlord speeds up. It would be a little awkward, as Overlords are the only thing slower than a Queen off of creep. The Queen dropped right in front, right in their faces. Behold! Oh, well, actually, no, picks them right back up. Their chauffeur has arrived. The 1-1 upgrades across the board, finishing, but one player has 70 more supply. A few drones will go down, completed. But this game is nearly completed, because it's not looking like a viable situation for Maru. He might not die here. He's doing a little counter damage, but Reynor is trying to figure out what to max out with. Whereas Maru is supply blocked at 90, 85 supply. Reynor helping him out with that a little bit. The boys are pulled. Marines and Marauders stimming, but they are not winning. The transfuse is keeping things together, providing the basic anti-air needed to counter any amount of Banshees. And GG Reynor in game 1 with a decisive victory. Now, I don't think there's too much to take away from that. It kind of feels... It feels almost like when you scout a proxy Rex that early, they should just leave. And there are players in the past who have done that. But Maru has played from worse scenarios than getting his proxy scouted. In fact, sometimes players will scout his proxy and even delay it, and he ends up winning. Just because sometimes when the game goes sideways, it is the faster and the more flexible player who ends up winning, even if on paper they have a disadvantage. Now, this game isn't played on paper, despite Twitch chat's constant, what is the word I wanted? Like a fancy paper word. Mulings. Yes, that's a good one. With a W. Fun word. Not that fun, though. Makes you sound a little old-timey. But despite that, it really does come down to the flexibility in that kind of weird scenario. And Reynor is maybe... He's on the short list of people who can compete with Maru in that sense. Some of Reynor's games go sideways real quick. Like, he is willing to go for the super cheese, the one-base roaches. Like, some sort of... Like, he's queen dropping here, which wasn't nearly as crazy as, like, a one-base roach play, but he's willing to try new things. He's young and impressionable. That... Probably shouldn't combine that word with that word. But, let's focus our direction on the game. Reynor up 1-0. Pillars of gold. Bit of a different map because you have a ramp leading to your natural directly. So that means 2-base aggression is even like a proxy rack's pretty hard to pull off. It's not a huge factor in defining the openers, but it's just a little less likely for you to get up that ramp and get damage done. And of course, we already kind of played. Jimmy, can we? What? How many times? Actions will be taken, but more by these players. Oh, Reynor. Scouting thoroughly for proxy racks. Drone scout, like, the biggest admission that players usually make as Zerg against Terran is the Overlord pathing. The Overlord pathing on your first couple Overlords looking explicitly for barracks or wayward SCVs. But Reynor is pulling the drone scout, and I think it is kind of playing the player and not the matchup. At this level, you do play the player just as much. So Reynor acknowledging he is against the man who... If you had to put a face on proxy racks, I think it would be Maru smiling. Like he's just always smiling. He seems to always be enjoying himself. Even when that proxy racks gets scouted, you see him give... Like, Parting might put his head in his hands, squint his eyes so hard you'll be scared that they won't open. Like, run his hands through his hair and then potentially just start screaming. Maru, on the other hand, just... No screaming yet, at the very least. How does he get away with that? The Reaper gets no kills, but it does get out with its life, which is a win. It's not a Clem Reaper. A Clem Reaper would have got 2 drone kills there, but... You just scouted my proxy rags. You got this. I don't think that's the expression he'd give, but there's your example. I'll tell you this, I googled Maru SC2 for images, and every single one of the first, like, 20, no smiles. Directly disproving my point, but I found one. So, they're all, like, mid-game, nothing happening shots. I'm not gonna go, like, Google Maru SC2 smiling, which, while it might get me what I want, is also really weird. 3 CCs. Not going to be punished this time. This is going to be a classic. The builds are shaping up. Everything coming together. Reynor been allowed to mostly execute his early game. And by that I mean sit back, build some creep, get a good scout off to see that Maru will be allowed to execute his. It's going to be 3 Raxes now, 2 engineering base. We're going to, I wouldn't be surprised if both these players max out easily about 10 minutes and then just start brawling it out. So far, everything, and Reynor is going for the evolution chambers before the lair, indicating he's looking more long-term as opposed to making sure he gets his tech out early. Usually you only go for this if you're not feeling threatened. And he got Overlord speed. He scouted the whole base. He scouted 3 command centers. That means not too many Marines can be coming at you, at least in the near future. Maru pokes with a few Hellions. But we're not going to be seeing anything but the early mid-game decisions. Like, does Reynor go for Mutas? That's the big question now. Ideal scenario. Your opponent is going to be reliant on putting on medevac base pressure momentarily. You're going to have good ground upgrades with a lot of larva and decent creep spread to back you up, which means your Mutas don't have to rely as much on playing defense, but instead your Ling Bane should be able to cover for it. But at the same time, Maru was already going to have a good economy. Like, a lot of the reason in Heart of the Swarm that Mutas were more popular is the speed of the economic development, which is a fancy way of saying that when you kill 5 SCVs with Mutas, it matters more. When your opponent has 74 SCVs before the Mutas come out, doesn't matter as much. But it is going to be a Spire, and the Spire has become kind of the default choice again, despite its vulnerabilities and its fragile nature, because Hydras just don't cut it. Hydras are against a top-tier Terran, which I think Maru qualifies for. They're just not going to do enough. They can be out-microed by medevacs, by tanks. They just don't have the potential to shave off the units like Mutas do. So we'll see. Brenda! They're right there! Of course they're gonna drop the main. That's why we don't take it as our 3rd! And that is true. Because if for you Zerg players out there, if that base was taken as Reynor's 3rd, this drop, not that big of a deal now, but later in the match, you don't want one of your key bases to be exposed. Now, he's going to have Mutas, so he's going to be less worried about that momentarily. Oh my god, more drops coming up. Maru. Stop playing like a Maru. He can't help himself. These top-tier micro-Terrans, I have medevacs, will travel. And there are no Mutas out yet, so they're not really vulnerable. It's technically 12% faster to fly there. Okay. Zergling counterattack. The medevac flies out right as the Zerglings come in. You can't explain that. Drops out to defend. Gonna lose a few SCVs, but Maru on the other side, pushing in towards the 4th base. Couple Banelings crash into the Hellbats, but the Hellbats are expendable at this stage of the game. Reynor in the mineral line. Shaved off by a Widow Mine, finding some more SCV kills, but at the same time, Maru is forced. He's going to go drop towards the main. I don't know if there are any Mutalisks out yet. The Spire is complete. 7, 8, and 9 in production. 9 SCV kills on the other side, while Reynor deflects most, if not all, damage. Brenda, where is the creep? What do you mean they shot it? How does that work? The Queens will try to replace the creep. Maru sending out more drops. The supply is still pretty close to even. That means the army value is about the same. Actually, Maru a little bit ahead there. 5th base easily gunned down. Marines coming up. The Queen's left exposed. Another base in the top left. 1, 2 Queens down. But the Mutas are out for vengeance and blood. And both. Like, you can multitask, or as they like to say, mutatask. And nobody. People don't like it when they say that. It's annoying. Widow Mine drop. Scouts the Spire. Irrelevant now. The mines are not. Another shot. Looking for more. Target fires manually and finds a big group of banelings with it. Meanwhile, the drop shut down on the right side. Reynor still, he's dealing with it. It's starting, you can see Maru containing him. You can really define, especially once the players start getting closer to maxing out, you can define the game by where the creep is. And right now, Maru has done a good job of pressing back the creep on the sides, which are the vulnerable bases. But Reynor's been mostly allowed to continue to spread it near the... Oh my god! Masterful baits out of Maru. Some badly bruised mutas with nothing but their egos intact will be able to fly away and heal. He put it right on the other side of the refinery. There's still a Widowmon just chilling in between the 4th, and we're going to call it the 5th, but, you know, like, kind of... a few things could be defined. Whichever base starts mining first. So this becomes the 6th base. Another Widowmine finally dealt with, not wasting any banelings on it, but wasting time is not... Not that one. This one. No, still wrong one. What do you mean? Oh. Holy shit! What a time to bring that up. Reynor playing pretty quick. The banelings coming in. Let's go for a moment. I decided not to do the entire cast in this, but here comes the Reynor cam. For those. Now, of course, building Zerglings and banelings does take a lot of speed of holding down the Z key, but Reynor moving in. Eating a Widowmon hit, splits off. Gonna take both. Has another Overseer to work with. Another shot. Hits a lot of the mutas. In come the Lings and Banes. He's gonna have to fall back. The most of the army is there. Reynor just injected all his hatches. That one was actually a little slower than Cyril. Alright, Cyril pretty good on those injects. He's an efficient dude. Can we stop? Alright. It was actually Reynor, very quickly. Reynor, I learned how to edit the Windows registry to have the repeat rate of your keyboard be lower. So you can turn down the repeat rate in Windows settings, but Reynor has it at, like, the physical minimum, which means he holds the Z key for, like, 0.2 seconds, and it starts just building Zerglings at the maximum rate of his keyboard presses. So that is why you'll see those ridiculous spikes. He has edited the Windows registry to be able to make Zerglings faster, essentially. And that's pro gaming. And so is that. Knocks out a planetary fortress, Sublimeocking Maru, who's struggling to maintain 4 bases. It's not like he added new programs. He just edited a number, by the way. It's just a number that Windows doesn't usually want you to have, because most users would be like, why am I now typing F 48 times to pay respects? Like, a lot. I think many players use it for many things. Something like that. Well, we'll see. So, lost a little track of this game. Reynor's had 102 drones, but he doesn't have a hive done. Whereas Maru just finished 3-3, and now we've got that classic dichotomy where the Terran player has those maxed out upgrades and the most efficient possible maxed out army, while the Zerg is still on lair tech. And the fact that Maru was able to attack is not good for Reynor, because right now Reynor needs to keep him on defense in order to utilize that extra economy, that extra production. He's going for the counterattacks. This is critical here. He needs to do something while holding it home. Otherwise, there's no point in having 103 drones if you're going to lose every fight. Down go, he bashes the banelings through a barracks of all things. But Reynor on the right side, losing a base. +2 flyer attack is done. 68 Zerglings in production. Maru, did he lose anything critical? A handful of SCVs. He doesn't really need those at this stage. Marines splitting back. Great split there. Reynor still struggling to field enough army, but he brings the mutas back. Base is targeted down. Reynor has money in the bank. He's not too worried about production. Banelings roll through into the Marines. Maru not looking, and down plummets in supply. That was not what he was looking for. He gets some of the medevacs out, but that hit was big damage there. It's rare to see the banelings get that juicy of a connection, especially against those well-upgraded Marines. And suddenly, Maru pushed to the back foot. He's got a nice amount of workers still, especially at this stage of the game when you're mining out That's the word. Of your main and your natural. +1 flyer carapace as well as +3 carapace on the way for Reynor. I'm kind of surprised he's not... There you go. Melee attack upgrade. Does he have adrenal glands? He doesn't have them. He doesn't have them. One of the biggest DPS upgrades to the Zerglings. Better than any of the individual melee attack upgrades combined. If not all of them combined. We saw in a key match against Cure, Cyril missed that upgrade a few weeks ago. I don't know how long it was. Time blends together. So much Starcraft. That is a really important upgrade, especially when you're relying so much on attrition, as opposed to... Reynor wants to take as many fights as possible. He wants to take even fights, because when you have 97 drones and 2 more bases, you can replace your army and your opponent can't do it as well. So that is a big mistake out of Reynor. Not getting that adrenal glands upgrades. He's getting +3 flyer, but mainlings are trying to crash in. He needs to beat this army. He needs to beat down every army at his door. Another Zergling counterattack. 3-3 not done for Reynor. He probably won't take an all-out fight, if at all, until those upgrades are done. But Maru gets another base. Reynor, the army's like, he just... You can only build 200 supply, asterisk, but the asterisk is not that important. Adrenal gland starts. Meanwhile, Maru's pushing into the top left. 8 SCVs go down, but another base of Reynor is vulnerable, and the mutas are on the other side of the story. Everything is not... It's just not done for Reynor, and if Maru can reduce his production and whittle down his army so that by the point those upgrades are actually complete, there's nothing left... Well, those upgrades aren't going to upgrade much. Chitinous plating is on the way. I assume Ultra Speed is coming up behind that. The mutas! The ones that +3 attack is being heavily invested for. Cut down. He's now lost 35 mutas in this game. And he's down to just 5, which seems like a small number. Widowmine's looking for an opportunity, but forcing him back. Once again, Maru pushing the issue. Reynor's starting to get bottled up on his corner of the map. The queens aren't going to be enough to stop this, no matter how angry they are. A few ultras and lings making their way through, but as soon as he sees the commit, Maru moves in on the left side as well. The muta's trying to fight this. Thor's in the back. There's really nothing for the banelings to hit, and the Thor survives with next to no HP, but next to nothing is definitely not nothing. And Maru just pressing any point that he thinks is a weakness. And while there might not be anti-air, the mutas are thinned out enough that it doesn't matter. He's on the chase. Reynor holds for now, but that bank he once had is gone. He's down to 2 mining bases against Maru, who's on 2.5 at least. And Maru has mules, and Maru has medevacs, and Maru has marines, and Maru has marauders, and Maru has micro. Alliteration is fun. A few more mutas being thrown in. Have to justify that investment. And also dealing with the medevacs is key. Another planetary, deja vu. But this time with more advanced units. The Widowmine's finding connections. And this is the exact stage when Widowmines are most effective. When there's so much going on but no bank, that those Widowmine hits that Reynor forgot about, they just keep adding up. The Spire! The Spire! It's bleeding out off a creep, but Maru could help it around. Targeting down Ultraless. He gets a couple medevacs out. The base is retaken, but Maru presses the right! And again, Reynor looks left, and Maru hits him with the right hand. And he's starting to bleed out. It really feels like Maru's been in the driver's seat ever since 3-3 finished. And while Reynor has caught up in upgrades, he has not surpassed in this match. He keeps killing command centers, he keeps killing planetaries, but he's not on the production. Hatcheries are not just income, they're also production for Zerg. So Reynor not only struggling for income, but also to just put the units on the field. Another medevac drop is taken out. But Maru is a couple steps away. The Widowmines not being cleared out as the Overseers have disappeared. Every Widowmine hit, every time it gets a second shot, makes Banelings feel very impotent. and possibly think about, wait a second, don't we have more to live for? And Reynor quashes that thought very quickly because Maru comes in with another attack. Oh, the Widow memes. Just dreams for now. The Widow Mine's on their own. Putting the army. Well, Reynor's army in the grave and Maru's army on their back. Another base. Obliterated. The Marauders, this time he's just going to win the fight. What, a Muta counterattack. We'll find more SCVs. Maru still has his main to lift if it gets that desperate. I don't think it will. Maru's chasing the Mutas while winning fights. This one a little sloppier on the cleanup. But he already killed the hatchery. And he takes the bottom right corner. And this is it. If Reynor can't do anything about this, we're looking at checkmate. Because Maru can't take his corner. He can't take any bases. Or Reynor can't take his bases reliably. Whereas Maru has been quite methodical about it. Now he's split between two sides of the map. And if he controls both, what is there left? There are no bases in the center. There's no resources there to gather. The turrets are racking up multiple kills. Drones long distance mining from the corpse of a hatchery several times over. Them themselves will join it. Another Marine Marauder push. Widow Mines working both ways. The rocks take a hit, but the drone count is dipping. This fight going to be won by the Mutas, but only a small victory, and now the war is severely in doubt. Another group of bio comes up, and another hatchery goes down. How many is that? 9 and counting, let alone however many never finished. The Mutas going for the counterattack, trading with turrets, which is not something you want, but something he has to do. Otherwise, there's no more damage to be had. Reynor holding with Ultralisk, but no detection to get rid of the Widow Mines. Reynor's broken through the defenses. The last gamble on the Mutas. Starting to find some damage, but just as soon as it's looking good for Reynor, Maru hits again! The hatchery, gone! Double digits, gone! 10 hatcheries down. Widow Mine hurts more Terran than Zerg, but once again, the turret count, the TPM is more than high enough. 23 SCVs down, and still 150 supply. For you less than math experts right now, that is 100 and... Well, it keeps changing. These guys are pretty good. That's a lot. That is a lot of army. That is potentially too much. And where is Reynor mining? It almost feels like a foregone conclusion. But Reynor's still got a few Mutas, and a few Banelings, and a few Ultras. Brenda! No! And just like Reynor's hopes in this game, with them, the Queens fall! And so does that hope for a clean sweep. All tied up, 1-1. Maru. I don't blame Reynor for killing Maru early. Terran's right now, like, I will say, it feels like when the game goes according to plan, for both players, the Terran's plan wins. Recently in Zerg versus Terran, in your just full-on, no significant shenanigans early macro games. I'm not going to say 9 out of 10 times. It's not 9 out of 10 times. It's like 6 out of 10 times the Terran takes it. Assuming both players are of a similar level, of course, as we like to in StarCraft. But Zerg's struggling to find an answer. Mostly I'm talking Cyril and Reynor. And a few Korean Zergs sprinkled in. But mostly Cyril and Reynor struggling to find an answer to the later game Terran. Or at least, by late game, I mean not end game, to draw a distinction. End game is when you're literally like, so, how much do they have in the bank, and how many bases are left to mine? That's end game. Like, the board is set. And there's not much more we can do to change it. Late game is when we have all the tech, but we still have money. Like, we can max out, but with what, and how do we use it? And that's where that multi-pronged bio style is most effective, especially if the Terran has even a bit of an edge. But we'll see if that continues. As we're in the ASUS ROG quarterfinals in Game 3. I don't think Reynor really did anything. That's the best of StarCraft. When you're like, well, Reynor didn't do anything wrong. I don't think there was any point that I was questioning Reynor's decisions. It's just he didn't do it enough right. Maru just did it better. A couple more mutas hitting in a couple different places, or a couple more banelings in the fights. And who knows? But we'll see. I don't think you can let any of these top-tier Terrans get 3 CCs. I don't know what you have to do. I'm not pretending to have the answers here. But I don't think you can let, like, Maru, Beyond, TY... Like, you can't just let them get 3 CCs. Even if it feels... A lot of the time, it feels like the Terran just is ahead then. Even if the Zerg also is not under any pressure, that's... I think the symptom, at least. So, does Reynor let Maru... I assume Maru will try something. He'll try it again. Will Reynor change his response? In Game 1, obviously, was the Roaches, but that was off of the semi-proxy Rex, semi-failure. So, hard to replicate that exact scenario. I want Battle Cruiser. Can I get Battle Cruiser, Maru? For me? I know when Maru goes into the booth. Actually, no, this is online. So when Maru puts on his there were a lot of weird things to say. I don't know, his jumpsuit and his helmet, and he logs into StarCraft. Then he's thinking about me and what I want. That's what I'm trying to. That's where we're getting to. The Reaper finds a kill. Maybe the first time this series. I'm not sure. Oh, in Game 1 he got a drone. But it was also kind of weird. Again, Game 1 was sideways. Is this a 2-1? Oh my god. He's like, you know what? Now in 2020, now that we have all these advanced builds with all this tech, what are we gonna do? Guns and drugs, baby! Hell yeah, brother! Kamsahamnida! It is one of... It's like Blink Stalkers for parting, and also a very, very select few other Protoss occasionally. With, like, Blink Stalkers on paper can be countered and can be dealt with, and they're really just not that great. But you put them in the right hands. The 2-1-1, popularized, of course, by Beyond, who, I don't know. Beyond nowadays, like, he's back from the military, but I don't know if he's at the level of players like Maru, personally. We'll see. But using that same build. If you have the micro, it can be worth it. But I've had it described to me by top North American Terrans. It's like, if you're not on top of it, if you're not babysitting those Marines like you're their probably non-existent mother, then you're just behind against Zerg. It's just that extra edge you can get if you're almost perfect that makes it worth it. There are so many things that can go wrong, is why many players don't choose it as a regular option. And Zerg players, all they have to do is get lucky once. Like, you just need one good Bane hit, you just need to do a little bit too much damage to the medevacs with the Queens, and then suddenly it can't do anything. It doesn't have the gradual potential of like Hellions. Hellions, well, you can always find a use for 2, 4, or 6 Hellions. But these medevacs have to put on a ton of, they have a lot of weight. Not just the Marines, but the entire game carried on. Because if they're not able to keep Reynor under wraps, then he's just going to outgrow and overwhelm the Terran. Maru, of course, just goes against common wisdom, and he decides, I'm going to go straight for the main. Reynor scouting his creep. Oh, the queens! Brenda! Very angry about things on his creep. Usually, Terrans will start going for the creep and then just try to shave off lings and keep the creep under control. So that way they can do a follow-up push. Maru went for the main, which is super... It's like it's not greedy like a 3cc is greedy. It's greedy in that you're kind of relying on the Zerg not preparing or scouting for it. It's a little insulting to Reynor, to be honest. You think Reynor wasn't going to see it coming? Are you serious? So Maru, instead of being able to deny much creep at all, will kill a handful of Zerglings, a couple Overlords, and now the creep's halfway across the map, and Reynor has not been slowed down much. So this is not the worst. The worst case scenario is just losing it, obviously. But this is definitely not the ideal scenario here. Oh, the Marines, they stim. Some of them are double stim because they never got healed. He has to pick up. Everything's vulnerable. And that's not a fight Reynor can win, but Maru following it up. He hasn't built a third command center. He's just going. And I think that's the right call. He has to make it work now. Because if the game goes on, it's kind of the reverse of a Terran 3cc. Now, the Zerg can just build as many drones as they want. If they both go back to their corners, Reynor's ahead. So don't let him... Oh, my God. A King Henry, a Queen's over here. The Queens on their own are almost enough for this, especially with +1 Carapace on. Where are you going, Maru? In typical Maru fashion, like, what if? Okay, stay with me. We put everything in medevacs. Maru! You've been doing this for 10 years. Could you stop? He drops near the mineral wall, and Reynor just kind of jumps him because, of course, like, he knew where this was going. This is an awkward... Oh, my God! Oh, my God! The Queens have had enough! Enough! Never! Get off our lawn! How many queens? He's got 13 queens! His strat, no, his strat is not, like, mass queen. His strat is queens. That's what it is right now. You got some lings. Two-two's on the way. Carapace prioritized. I thought he was getting +1 ranged attack for a second. I didn't. It's no longer in production if it ever was. The Queen's moving up. He's going for the base, but that will cost not one. Just one. Okay. Somehow the other medevac survives. At this point, you could split your queens into 2 packs. I personally, of course, love the choice for the largest knitting crew I've seen in a professional game for quite a while. But it makes sense. Like, queens are they're an investment. Queens are, they don't get worse the more you have. They might not be as good as other options, but they don't get worse. They can heal each other. They can spread creep. They don't cost larva. What's not to love? That's what I've been telling people. At least Reynor appreciates. Reynor, I do have to say, is more willing to try different styles than other players. Like, he's one of the most regular users of lurkers. He's big on Vipers, even against heavy bio armies. We didn't see it last game because his economy was struggling so much. And here we see... No. I just built... How many queens now? He's got 16 queens! Ah! I love it! Another drop comes in. Maru trying to recreate the success. And lurkers as well! Oh, Reynor, marry me. Take me to Italy. No, Brenda! They split off from the pack, and this is why they travel in packs! So how I want to know I want the count. We got 14, 16 total. He's now, is that double lurker den? Reynor? Okay, that's a little much. He doesn't have a hive, so you can't even be like, well, double upgrade. Wait a second. Whose creep is this? Was this from a creep tumor? Well, we can't let that. There's still plenty of energy on the queens. He canceled the second lurker den. Reynor is boxing out the drops. And this game, he's going to rely on the Hydras, but the creep spread is good. The tanks didn't start building up. Maru's economy has been limited. I mean, there's your income. That tells the story better than I could with my fancy words, or not so fancy words, really, most of the time. Hive is on the way. Maru needs to do something, even before 2-2. Like, this is not a, I max out and trade better. No, no, no. Even if you max out, Reynor's army is perfectly fine. This is not the 3-3 versus 2-2 upgrade advantage. No, Reynor's in the lead on that. With a mind drop. Coming in. Reynor, quick reactions. Zerglings completely expendable. Banelings a little less so. Mildly ironically. More drops coming up. Maru's, essentially at this point, Maru's going to have to flail. Wait, did he cancel both lurker dens? No, he's building, he's still... Reynor decided, I want a second lurker den, just not yet. And of course, the lurker den can't upgrade until the hive is done with those super critical upgrades. Honestly, lurkers before hive tech are not even half the potential strength. Once they have their speed / burrow speed and 2 more range, they are getting close to the range of siege tanks, which becomes relevant, as siege tanks are usually the counter, quote unquote. Well, the counter is not getting scanned and killed by a small bio army. A couple lurkers go down, and Maru is, if he wasn't aware before, definitely aware of the lurkers now. Another army on the top center. Bane mines! But, unfortunately, the big weakness of Bane mines is they're not Widow mines. And suddenly, wait a second, Reynor getting pulled apart on both sides. Where are the queens? Where are the queens? Out in the middle of the map! Not here to save the day. He's just targeting down this base. I think Reynor recognized it. Lurker Den number 1! Down for the count. The other Lurker Den is in essentially the same spot. Double kill! Maru gets both! And that just seems like poor city planning, to be honest. Losing both lurker dens. So much for that lurker idea. So at first, it looked like Maru was in a tough spot. He needed to find damage. He needed to slow Reynor down. Well, he did. Simple point there. This is almost, like, if you asked Maru what he thought he could get in an ideal scenario, that was probably it. It was both lurker dens and keeping the army off his back while he takes a fourth. You can't expect to, like, kill multiple mining bases, but you can keep them at bay, you can keep them busy, and you can delay those hard-to-deal-with units, lurkers. At least until ghosts are out. The tank count is pretty high. Vipers are... I just heard a weird viper noise, but every noise they make is super weird. Maybe not that hatch, Reynor. Maybe... No! What did he... Oh, I thought he just consumed something. There's still a Widow Mine in the main. No, he canceled... I don't know what he canceled, to be honest. I think maybe been the third second lurker dead, but the queens! The queens stand their ground! And hold! And the queens are the only thing stopping the Terrans as the Zerglings are struggling, but the Hydralisk Den itself is down. The Hydra Den, while not required for lurkers, is required for Hydras, which are required for lurkers, so the trickle-down damage is there. Has to rebuild it, of course. And I don't think he had the range upgrade. He doesn't have Hydra range. Reynor is just not closing the door on Maru here. Maru keeps wedging his foot in. Until, like, by the time Reynor's finally able to close out all these like, Hydra range is kind of a big deal for the units you're relying on. Well, now that lurkers are now not so much. An attack. Blinding Cloud on the planetary drags in a tank. But here come the ghosts. And not just for lore reasons. Will Reynor be afraid to see them? Or not see them? Even worse. As Maru has now gotten himself to the unit composition that can counter Reynor. Reynor still had an economy. Remember, he didn't kill any bases. He killed tech, and he kept him busy, but he still doesn't have a better economy. Reynor is still leading heavily in that. Ooh, and Baneling's fine connections. Despite the cloak, mistake out of Maru, he did have cloak. What are you saving it for? It's not a potion in World of Warcraft. Come on. Range is coming up. Reynor just dunks on him with the lurkers. Up close and very personal right now. The lurkers shred the planetary. He decided acceptable losses, and he's now bringing that economy to bear. Despite how much time Maru has bought himself, Reynor was going to get here. Unless Maru got a ridiculous amount of damage done with the drops, which he just didn't do. Reynor was going to get here. He was going to get the lurker army. He was going to max out. The question was how much Maru would have to deal with it. And the answer is, Maru's not dead. That's about it. It's still a tough army composition with those Vipers. Oh, he drags in a couple. The EMP comes through, but not before the key tanks are... The key tanks are pulled, rather, to finish that sentence. Lurker's still finding damage. Meanwhile, Ling counterattack, preempting the planetary fortress. Lurker shredding, no detection. I guess that's one way to deal with lurkers without detection. Not really the ideal target, but Maru will nuke his own base. He cancels it. It flies off into the sunset. Maru also lost some... Well, he lost in the top right. He's down to 140 supply. Reynor's still maxed. The harem of queens. Could you just spread out a little bit? The tumors are growing at the rate of a tumor. And Maru has been limited to 1.5 mining bases. He's down to 64 SCVs, which is not a critically low number, but it's on the edge. And he's been struggling in income all game. He's still at 150 supply. Here comes Reynor again, forcing Maru to retreat. The counterattacks, the counter drops are gone. He doesn't have the supply for it. The lurkers, like an oversized Widowmine, will be wedged in between the production, requiring scans, dying surprisingly easy on their own. They're not the most... They're pretty fragile for what they are. You need some Zerglings in front to make things difficult. But Reynor is now expanding like a true Zerg. He's on Maru's side of the map. Well, to Reynor, everything is his side of the map, as any good Zerg would say. So he's just retaking his territory. And gonna use that as a launching point, a forward operating base, to keep striking into Maru's production. Maru has been allowed to rebuild. His army supply 115 right now, which is greater than that of Reynor, and Reynor's next. So he's still got to work on trading well. The Widowmines gonna fire, hit some Zerglings. This time he brought a few friends along with the lurkers. It will go better. Maru trying to get some damage done. Actually finding a base. Reynor not... Well, he doesn't want to allow it. Get back here! Wait, does he even have Hydras? I don't think he does. But 4 lurkers and the Lings that were here before make things a little... If Maru hadn't hit the rocks there, this would have been pretty clean. But at the same time, Reynor decides to press the issue, trying to isolate that top right base and dividing, and, well, next up is conquering. The final scan, Maru has to spend some reinforcements, and dealing with these lurkers, the cost efficiency has been there this game, but it's definitely starting to dip. I'm looking forward to Nice Username's new observer interface, which will have... You'll know when we get there. I'm going to spend like 20 casts talking about how amazing it is, based on what I've seen so far. But for now, just know that lurkers can be more and more cost-effective as your opponent is forced into worse and worse fights. That's kind of just basic logic. These are just Zerglings. That's what Zerglings look like, guys. This is what Zerglings, not my Zerglings. I still haven't gotten my Zerglings yet. You'll know about those, too, as soon as that happens. So while Maru's holding, guess what? Guess where those units aren't? Over in the top right. That's a lot of ghosts. There's nothing else but ghosts and tanks. A couple Widowmons, but that is not the... Cloak. He cloaks. Wow, and it works perfectly. Almost every ghost survives after the cloak. He was probably waiting till Reynor wasn't looking directly at him. Which means his ghost will mostly survive. But the lurker's slipping around the back. Well, the ghost's going to deal with it. He also finds that, there were Zerglings there the whole time. Maru's holding. Reynor not breaking him yet, and he's not changing it up. He's just building more of the same. But Reynor is, remember, mining from Maru's side of the map. And if it does come to that... Oh, the queens. But now we've gotten to the queens. The base itself taking a lot of damage. The queens deciding not to transfuse. I'm not sure that was an active decision. Maybe an active protest. Or just he was looking the other way. The queens continuing to go to work. Maru sniping bases. Hatchery's not that critical with this much money in the bank. Maybe just for production, but he rebuilt. Maru an undefended 4th. He had to go somewhere. He burrowed some banelings. Oh, come on. Give it to me. Oh, and they hit ghosts! Not that many hit ghosts. I don't know how many ghosts he killed, but I mean, it doesn't get much better. Unfortunately, well, of course Maru didn't see it, but that was the unseen baneling hitting the unseeable ghost. But the baneling there wins. Reynor, oh, come on, Reynor. Come on. The disrespect. You got 5 sprays. It's time to use them. The drone spurred into action. You're in my base, sir. I'm supposed to expand here. That's the heavy implication. Unfortunately, the drone won't make it. Poor worker safety laws in the Zerg. Meanwhile, Maru keeps trying to make progress. I see the corpses of a couple more queens. Only 6 have been lost. There are still 11 on the field. Maru finding some weaknesses, as when you have 98 drones this long into the match, there's not that much army supply. Reynor hitting it again. More snipes. All the overseers, triple kill. But Maru still struggling. Like, he's gonna scan, and you know in that scan was that Maru smile. Like, oh my god. He's gonna get the hatch, but he's gonna lose the battle for emotional support, at the very least. As the fact that he had to kill that hatch was really the problem. Another round of Hydra Slings and Banes. He just keeps whipping them out, and he can keep doing so. Banes from the back, Banes from the front, and Ghosts caught in the middle. They can't see, they can't shoot. But they survive. I don't know when this was mined, but apparently there was a gap in that mineral wall as well. I don't know. Reynor, stop it. Stop. We get it. Reynor acting like the campaign right now, and honestly, it kind of feels like it. Can he survive 15 more waves of that same army? If yes, then maybe Maru has a chance. But Maru holds. But there's a big difference between not losing and winning. And Maru is demonstrating it right now. Reynor coming in again. Just Zerglings and Queens. Minerals all the way down. The queen's holding. The transfuse is taking an inordinate amount of energy from both sides. Puns intended. More queens. Lings are in the natural. Lurkers are in the main. And lings are all over the army. The queens continue to push. The backstop. They will be taken down. But Reynor looks like his score may very well go up. I really thought that Maru would GG as an epic conclusion, but he's not done yet. You still got an even army supply, and honestly, if you have 10 ghosts and plenty of medevacs, you're not out. It's not over. A few banelings could change that, but the ghost split. The cloak ghost split. But Reynor is chasing with no detection, by the way. He doesn't need to see them to kill them. He chased them blindly, despite the lack of Vipers. But this fight is not perfect for Reynor. It doesn't need to be perfect, but the lurkers are still going to work. Reynor loses a lot, but he has a lot to lose. Maru coming in for another round. Gonna kill more hatcheries, but at what cost? His production keeps getting eviscerated by lurkers. More lurkers on the way. Reynor getting pushed back and his bang dipping. The fact that Maru's still in the game is insane. The fact that there's still a risk of Reynor losing is even crazier. It's ghost meta. Be careful! No social distancing! The parasitic bomb takes a few extra medevacs with it. The scan spots that Reynor has Reynor's starting to run out of money to do these very, very 38 drones at this base, but where else are they going to mine from? We're starting to get to that point. Another hit on the top right. There's no amount of repair. The banelings go into the SCVs. Maru is running out of mineral patches. He's got 4 left. Maybe whatever's left here, 65. If he can't take one of these bases, this base is almost superfluous at this point. The tanks, something was A-clicked on the rocks. The tanks, 12 more SCVs go down. Will Reynor decide to collapse on the last base mining? Maru, it's time. It's time, Maru. For the main. It's time to lift. The last and true sign of the state of the game. Maru! And there we go. The last hope of the Terrans. I mean, he has more CCs, but they're further away, so. It's just ghosts. The army supply is starting to get out of hand as well. Some snipes coming off. But once again, Reynor at 676 average actions per minute. And rising. Looking to put himself up 2-1. The lurker shredding. And Maru crumbles. He held. But Reynor just kept hammering down with the lurkers, the queens holding things together at home. And the Hydra, Ling, Lurker, Bane continuing wave after wave after wave. Actually, let's check. 944 Zerglings. And we don't know how many Banelings, because sometimes when they attack, they don't show up in units lost. They were units used, which is different. And only 12 queens, which is less than he had. Really pretty efficient on the queens, I will say. But Maru against the ropes. Match point. And Reynor playing like a Zerg there. I'm glad. I'm so excited. I feel like, let me give myself credit, which you know I never do. I said one of the things that stands out is his lurker usage, and also the queens here are a great example of how kind of a little outside the box Reynor is. So what did we get to see that game? Beating Maru. What do we get to see? Queens and lurkers. The 2 key points. So now, of course, we go into the most important question. The biggest gamble in all of StarCraft that won't end up in a dramatic scandal. How many barracks does Maru build in his base? And how many doesn't he? The eternal question on match point. We're heading in. And with it... What? Oh, I'm sorry. Come on, like, we're in the middle of the... What do you mean? Okay. Well, very quickly, a quick... I keep saying that. Message from our sponsors. Quick advertisement. We'll be right back. Thank you guys for watching. Welcome back, everyone, and I'm here from YouTube to tell you that I'm glad you made it to this video. I'm glad you decided to click on it. I'm glad that you liked what you saw so far. You got to this point. But have you liked what you've seen so far? Ask yourself that question. And then, maybe, spend a few seconds and give an answer. Also, subscribing and ringing the bell, and you can find more content like this because YouTube wants to know what you like before you do, and that's the key. So, thank you for tuning in, and remember, not everything is controlled by our Google overlords, but instead Amazon Prime, every month for free. You can connect it with Twitch. It's not just the home of all your impulse buys, great shows like The Expanse and other things that I assume exist, but also Prime Gaming. Prime Gaming every month for free. You can subscribe to a streamer of your choice, and occasionally I stream on the Twitch TV. So make sure to subscribe. And every moment you don't, essentially, you're losing money for me. So subscribe with Prime Gaming here on YouTube and so many other places. Check out my OnlyFans / Patreon. And that's it. That's all we got. Yeah. Thank you guys for sticking around. I know ads are annoying, especially in these times, but let's get started. And by started, I mean where you see this is why everyone's confused. Game 4. In the bottom right. Down 1 game. Needs 2 games. That's the one. The Terran player, the player with more professional games of StarCraft 2 than anyone else in the history of the game, is Maru. And bringing him down twice now, the man with more APM than anyone in the history of StarCraft 2. I'm pretty comfortable of any player at this level. I'm sure you could personally get more APM, but to actually use it is something entirely different. And Reynor's shown us how important and how well he can use it. So. $600 come on, man. Like, I know it's a whole lot of constantly building Zerglings and drones and everything. It's just ridiculous. That is over 10 times a second. Just think about it. Think about, even if some of it is just holding down the Zergling key for a couple seconds. Like, that is over 10 times a... Oh my god. Looks like, despite being on submarine, despite being on the smallest map in the spawning pool, we do not see one of those spawning pools particularly early. We don't see a proxy Rex. Partially, I think, because the barracks is about the same distance from Reynor's main as a proxy would be on other maps. This map, so... Romanticide is a little more split. Submarine is definitely leaning towards Terran. I wonder which maps were veto. Well, we might see by the end of this. But generally, very, very generally, the longer the distance between the players, the better it is for Zerg. Because while Zerg isn't the entirely reactionary race it was maybe in Wings of Liberty, as they have a lot more options for being proactive, like lurkers, for example, it's still, the more time you give them, the more larva that builds up, the way their production works. You want to build drones until that last possible second. Like, assume a 2-1-1 comes out from Maru at the same time, on Submarine and on Jagannath. Just assume that. You have time for 8 more drones from Reynor, and then building the same amount of lings before the 2-1-1 comes out. Just because of the time it takes the medevac to fly. And that's, especially in this series, I think, a big factor. And speaking of, 3 command centers from Maru alongside that 1-1-1, and he got the starport after the 3rd command center, which is the epitome of greed. But this game, dipping his hand in the greedy pool himself, Reynor not going for Overlord speed. He went for a 3rd base quickly. I'm seeing a trend. And delayed his Zergling speed a little, let alone not getting OV speed. So he's not going to see this really with enough time to punish it. He might not see it at all if the Viking comes out quick enough. We'll see. He won't. And so far, it really has looked like if Maru gets away with 3 CCs without being punished or pressured, he looks better. Whereas Reynor, he got away with essentially 4 bases without significant pressure. I still stand by the 2-1-1. One, it only works well if you're a better player than your opponent. And 2, it is still a bit of a gamble even then. And Maru gambled on the drop in the main, and Reynor kind of just took control of the game, mostly from that point. So he's not going for it this time, but Reynor definitely a worthy opponent of Maru at the very least. So far, a better player. Full macro. The only... Wait, do we have Evo Chambers? No. I think this is either a map-based or style-based addition. Really narrowing it down. Reynor has gone for Lair before Evo Chambers. His upgrades will be slower, but his Lair tech will be quicker. We're talking Baneling speed. We're talking Spire. And if not Spire, Hydralisk Den. I'm not sure what it'll be. Hydras definitely seem like a solid option here. But whatever he thinks will be best. Mutas are the better option in almost every scenario, on paper. Assuming you had 1,000, not 600 APM. But they just don't have the fighting potential. Brad, okay. Everyone else took the right path. You took the wrong path. You're walking all... Now the Hellions just poking at the creep. Doesn't take much to get across the map. Baneling speed is on the way. Evo Chambers as well, but the upgrades have already begun for Maru. No choice of Lair tech yet, but Reynor still doesn't have that much gas. Viking, how many kills did it end up with? Just 1 Ovi. We still haven't seen a commitment to any sort of Lair tech aside from Bane speed. And you can go just pure Ling Bane, but that is kind of like 2-1-1, to be honest. It's kind of like relying on your opponent to make a mistake somewhere and the Banelings connect. This is Maru. I mean, you see his name, but like, just for dramatic effect, this is Maru. That is not a reliable strategy. He may not have invented marine splits, but he may as well have. The 4th base under heavy pressure. Those rocks making things very difficult. 1-1, not actually... Oh, where did the Banelings go? They're gone. Okay, more Banelings. And the Marines are now gone. He's sacrificing some for the good. And now the Banelings are gone. Is Reynor just dead? And now the Banelings are gone again. The Hellions are mostly dead, but... And now Combat Shields finishes. That was without Combat Shields. He does have 1-1. Reynor's still trying to close the distance on that. This map, like, it's so hard to deal with a well-timed tank push. Oh, now, either Maru is paying intellectual property rights to Marine King, or he's kind of taken over. But there was no way. That spread was so good, I could use it to butter my biscuit. Maru, that wasn't even close. Like, that was just both players got to 5 minutes, no, next to no pressure. A little Hellion Reaper dance, a little early game flirtation there, but that's... well, that was like a worst case scenario submarine game. What was Reynor even doing? Like, what do you do? The answer was obviously not just rely on Lings and Beams. It was not that. I feel like the window closed before the attack started to do anything. If that was game one, I would be very concerned for Reynor, but that is kind of how it feels on against Maru. Sometimes he just kind of wins, and it feels like you couldn't do anything about it. You could know, and Reynor, for the most part, I think, knows exactly what Maru was doing. Like, he probably knew his build, even without seeing it, once he saw the Hellions and the timing of the Viking, which tells you the starport time. Once he saw that, he knew it was a 3cc in the bio. Like, he knew that. And that still happened. Two to two. Ooh, that's a rough game to go into game 5 with. For Reynor. Death Aura, a little smaller map, not nearly as small as Submarine. He really jammed in there on Submarine, which I guess appropriately named. Death Aura, on the other hand, the speed zone's in the center. A little more space to breathe. The rich Vespine bases, by the way, in the center of the map. The only map to feature multiple rich Vespine geysers alongside a full set of minerals, 8 mineral patches. So, we will see. Reynor looking for proxy racks now. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, Maru's done it before. I'm sure he'll do it again. Building proxy racks. In the deciding match of a series. But not this time. If you're, like, there is a level of mind game, and it really depends on the matchup, the player. There is a... And this is why, in the past, Maru has not done that great at online tournaments or like weekend tournaments where you play a bunch of different opponents over and over, but Maru is so good at GSL. Well, that's his specialty. More than most others. When you can prepare for your opponent and your opponent's style, you can kind of pick it apart. But just being a solid all-around player in many matchups over the course of many games a day is a different skill set. Maru seems like he's developed that over time. It used to be almost a meme at how poorly Maru would do. It was like how Cyril versus Maru would never play each other, because Cyril, of course, that's what he's doing. He's playing weekend tournaments. He's beating everybody. And then Maru would just lose in like round of 8 or round of 16 against players who really, on paper, he should beat almost every time. because Maru was so finely tuned for that GSL-style format. But almost everything is a weekend nowadays, and with region lock essentially removed, with the new ESL system taken over for WCS, and I think appropriately so, it is no longer nearly as much like, these are where the Koreans play, and this is where everyone else goes. And I will tell you, it's made for a few awkward family gatherings when I hear them talking about foreigners and I realize, wait a second, they don't mean me. Because that's so ingrained in StarCraft that foreigners are not Koreans. So, at the end of the day, I think many events have proven that non-Koreans have caught up. But overall, even if it's a lot of the same names, Korea is still by far the highest concentration of top players. Can Maru prove it again? Oh, it's a hellbat. Oh, God. I hate this. Okay, you may have heard me voice some completely unbiased feelings towards Widowmines in the past. And especially the early Widowmine drop builds that Cure and Clem have been such fans of. Well, here we go. The armory is not really for Hellbats, though, I mean, why not? It's a cloaked mine drop. And while a Spore Crawler can see it coming, it's still such a pain. And Reynor, beautiful Cyril-like Ling Scout. Sees it coming. But I don't know what he expects to be in there. I probably mines. He hasn't built any spores at all, though. So maybe he thinks Hellions? The fact he's building 0 spores is a bit of a deal here. Reynor going to be pretty hard supply blocked. He's building more OVs now. He had only 1 on the way and was already over supply blocked. Oh, he's chasing it. Oh, wait a second. Oh, no, 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 no. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, no. Yeah, okay. He did not expect mines. And meanwhile, Hellbats on the right side. Oh. Reynor definitely off balance here. Building a lot of drones, but he has to deal with the mines. The first upgrade outside, like the first upgrade at all that Maru gets is drilling claws. Oh no. The Widowmine's dealt with, but there's one in the main! He forgot about the one in the main! 4 drones killed at a critical time before 50 drones. The only saving grace here for Reynor is he does have that full 3-hatch production, and he's got his upgrades quicker. What? Okay, we're going with the heavily mech-influenced bio. A bio-curious build, if you would. Where it's mines. It's a mine build. But now we're throwing the bio build on top of the mines. The core unit, it's not bio into mines. It's mines into bio. Which is much more, one, annoying for the Zerg to deal with, which is good, and takes an entirely different, like, you can't rely on Lings and Mains at all anymore. I think this has to be Hydras, once you realize, just mutas right out. If you go mutas against this, good luck to you, because you are going to require it. With that many mines, with drilling claws that early, another drop in the main. These mines will actually be dealt with, thankfully. He's got to deal with the one to the top right. Hydraless Den is the choice. Lurkers, a pretty direct counter to mines. They just outrange them, simply enough. Hydra's a little softer counter as they outrange them, but asterisk in that they have to see them and also die in one hit. So, not the ideal choice. Main speed, OV speed, Hydra speed coming up next. +1, +2. Whereas, remember, we'll see if Maru remembers. Usually players are pretty good about this now, but there was a time when players would go for a Hellbat build and then religiously get a second armory to get 2-2. Because it'd be such a long split between getting the Hellbat push and going for 2-2 But I don't think Maru will forget. Maru never forgets. And he never forgives. These drones. 11 drones. Another mine. There's so many mines. Don't mind. New Minecraft build from Maru. They're everywhere. What? There are 3 bases. Maybe 4. I don't know how many Reynor cleaned up. Oh no. They just... No! Oh, that was bad. That was a bad one. Oh, Maru now has more workers. That is not... Oh. Reynor's trying to keep up, but he has to keep rebuilding drones. And that's not free. Like a spine crawler? Okay. Spine crawlers don't actually counter mines. They just they mitigate them by eventually... Jesus Christ. I just heard a mine off camera. What happened? Oh my, another one. A few more drones. Another drone. Finally, the queen. Revenge! But Brenda, still not done yet. They just keep firing! Maru, and what is Reynor's counterattack? There isn't one, in case you thought that was a trick question. Nothing else is happening. Maru's just doing damage, and Reynor's trying to stop him. Don't you already have a lurker den? Wow, so Reynor's, while he's getting a very quick hive, lurker den 2 and 3 are on the way, which is kind of a sign of the times, or at least a sign of the mines. As Reynor... Oh, he cancels one. Okay, he realizes. But still, the fact that that's happening at all... On the bright side, Maru forgot combat shield. So, Diamond Terrans rejoice. It's not just you. And it never has been. He remembers as soon as he steps on the creep, he's like, wait a second. That something's not right here. And that is the only thing I think that's going to keep Reynor at bay. Or the only thing that's going to keep Maru at bay is, like, without combat shields, you stim, and a Baneling can just kill the Marine immediately. Which is very rough. Especially in a more even match. Now, here's the thing. Maru has 92 SCVs, but Reynor says, let me stop you right there. He's going to 104 drones. At first, you thought that was ridiculous, but Reynor has overcompensated even harder. With now half the supply in the game, almost, is now workers. This is an Age of Empires, but there are plenty of queens, and and plenty of mines. Oh my god, the target fire there. Maru definitely target fired that. He didn't get the opportunity. Seismic spine's on the way. Maru is the slick pickups. The thing is, despite all of the... He's freeing up supply. That's what this is. Oh my god. Drone! It's fine. Under fire. But calm. Well, that's not good. Oh, sad. Reynor has 117! It's time to stop! No, it's definitely time to stop. That's way too many drones. That's actually a big issue. That's a problem. He won't be able to win a fight. Like, he just won't have enough units. Example A. There won't be an example B. He doesn't have enough army supply. Oh, 100 is very borderline. That's way too many drones. He's just making up for all the drones he lost before, but that's not how it works. He's slowly losing them. He needs to be more quickly about it. More quickly, yes. Now there are well over 200 workers in the match. Another bout. Maru just has more weight to throw on, but Maru actually has too many. Let's like the only thing in the one of the weirdest forms of production, my comrades, is there are so many workers for both sides. That's the only reason why Maru's not at a huge advantage. Maru has too many SCVs, which is why Reynor isn't getting punished as hard for having too many drones. Because Maru should have like 80 SCVs. So there's at least another medevac of units he could be building that he doesn't have. Well, macro greater than micro. I'm glad both these players agree. The fights begin, but coming down the ramp, Reynor, while he took so many hits early, is banking up money. We've been playing this. It's felt like Maru has been leading this entire game. But Reynor, while he's taken big hits, he's rolled with the punches here. And he's maxed out. He keeps maxing out. With good upgrades, he's adding on... No, he's not adding on anymore. But he got his 3-3 first, at least for his Zerglings. He needs to add on the ranged attack. He's got money in the bank, and he's got hive tech. I mean, that comes with the upgrades. So, while Maru has been doing good work throughout this match, Reynor still has a good position. It's more even than Romanticide. I think... Oh, this is an interesting fight. Oh, no! Come on, that's not fair. The queens come around, caught off creep by another round of bio. Both players are... No! Widow Mines! Once again, heroes of the day! Killing 2 Vipers where the ghosts couldn't. A few of the ghosts out of cloaking here. They say, can you lend me some? And that's not how it works. Another hatch. Dunked on by a group of bio. I don't know if it was canceled, but it doesn't matter with this many minerals. The lurkers. No, come on, Raider. Calm down. He's like, how can I waste 300 minerals at a time? He is whittling down his drone count. I'll give him that. Maru in a professional game uses the SCV pickup option, and it might actually matter. Because at this point, he's actually lost too many SCVs. Or they'll all die with the command center. There's also that. Will it burn? As Maru goes into the corner, you can't repair from the inside. The damage is external. If only they had some sort of space construction vehicle to go outside and wait a second. Maru holding. Reynor also holding. Damage on both sides. The SCVs. Oh, no. Let us help! Let us help! No! Meanwhile, another fight. The Hydra's with a beautiful concave. But the ghosts shredding it. Just punching holes in the Hydra lines. The consume, both sides conspiring to do damage to that hatchery. There just aren't that many units here for Reynor. The bio, aside from the ghost... Stop consuming the hat! Stop doing that! Go anything else! Please! Ah! More queens coming up. The supply is dangerously even. Not good for Reynor. He retreats with the drones. He's finally dropped under triple digits. Hopefully he doesn't remake more. He's got the base in the top right. Maru looks like he's going to get a hold of this with a thin amount of bio. But he has enough. The command center, I assume, did not burn. How many command centers has he actually lost? 0. That kind of tells the story. 7 hatcheries to 0 is probably the best way to describe this game in terms of how much pressure players are able to put on. Maru has had the initiative, and he's used it. He continues to force Reynor into fights. There are some counterattacks. There's some damage done, but only where Maru is actively not. Reynor looking for finally an opportunity to catch the army. The lurkers dunk down. Force a total with... He's routed. He's gone. Everything. Forced to load up into the medevacs or die in the process. The medevacs themselves now under attack. The tanks dropped but still in the hot zone and shredded by lurkers. Parasitic bomb. Gonna help thin out the medevacs. There's still a lot of bio on the ground. Not nearly all of it is at full HP, but neither are the lurkers. Oh, he tries to snipe, but instead the lurkers dunk their faces into the creep, and very important, it is creep. And avoid it, for now. Are there EMPs? He needs EMPs. Whip them out. He doesn't have that much energy on the ghost. He's looking for more snipes. There's snipes coming in from the left. A cloak ghost. Good luck with that. Counterattack. Center of the map. Another pickup of SCVs. That's 2. Check it off your bingo card and finish your drinks. And then get back to the bloodshed. And so many... it's hard to tell whose blood is whose. Because apparently we both bleed red. But at the end of the day, more of it is Reynor's. He loses this fight, but the counterattack catching reinforcements. Another base. Gonna go down. With it, potentially a critical amount of drones. We're getting there. The medevacs are out of energy. Is there a parasitic bomb? No, but get over here. Into the Hydras. One parasitic bomb could have cut all the medevacs down. Or at least bruised the vast majority. It's not enough. Reynor again. The APM's 550. Reynor having a slow game. Maru at nearly 400. Yes, a lot of that is buildinglings and mainlings. But not all. The SCV and its hero command center steed come back to the center of the map in this double Vespine geyser base. Usually with bio, you're banking up gas, but this isn't bio. This is bio-curious. We're back to ghosts. We got a lot of tanks with upgrades. Mines on the deck. Both sides, they can't see each other underground because, you know, the fucking ground. Meanwhile, the bio army is moving up. Queens, gun down. Reynor, that was the backstop. Does he have enough units to defend? More lurkers coming in every side. Almost no ghosts here. Lings mitigating the splash damage. The lurker's getting closer. Viper's moving in on the right side. Ling's trying to defend. A big Widow Mine. A couple more. He's actually microing. Not there. Pushed back in the middle of the map again. Maru forced to retreat. Most of Reynor's forces are committed here. Maru still has a lot of army supply. But this command center will fall. And that's number one on the board. Finally, Reynor's able to get a base. Even though it was one Maru was putting himself out there for. Getting anything is important as Reynor holds on to the top right and deals with the center. We're back to the mine drops. Deja vu. I've just lost drones like this before. 7 more dead. I hate everything. I'm sorry. I was monologuing internally. Mines all over the map. Once they go back to their corners. Even these players need a little breathing room. They've both done so much damage to each other that they both retreated to recover. Rebuild lurkers and Viper energy. Heal up ghosts, marines, marauders, and build more of them. Lurkers coming back to defend it. One of the most awkward and dramatic drone transfers. Meanwhile, counterattack on the right side. Maru striking on the left. He's microing against the lurkers. The drones are pulled to help in anything they can do. But only drones is not going to stop the bio army. But a bio army of Zerg is going to stop the right side base. Both players knocking bases and economy back down. The center of the map is going to be critical. The first 3 to 4 bases have mined out. There's still a Widow Mine over there dangerously. I feel like I don't need to say dangerously with it, but it's particularly dangerous. The mine. He doesn't see the mine, and somehow the mine doesn't see anything else. Well, the lurker doesn't really avoid it. Maru down to 1.5, maybe 2 mining bases. Reynor the same. The Zerglings find an opportunity, force a pickup. Another, oh no, not there. Anywhere but there. Anywhere but there, Reynor. No, the EMPs, the lurkers! The jaws of death. The tank goes to concave. He just walked in. Of all of the fights to take, that was the one Reynor chose. Well, that was the worst place on the map to attack. And Reynor, a complete loss in that fight. Losing his most key units. And that means Maru, with confidence, moves up to the high ground. He's going to pressure Reynor on the opposite side. Reynor's not out of it yet. He's still got 76 drones, but where are the mineral patches to mine from? The income has been, the gap has been dwindling, and Maru, while he didn't have the command center ready to take this center base, I think this time it's not going to go down for free. Reynor holds on to his. 4th base mining out, 5th base mining out. Reynor has lost, at this point, 8,000 more minerals. Maru has a larger army supply, and Reynor being whittled down so much at that critical time, he's not playing 300 supply Zerg. He's not even playing 200 supply Zerg. He can't max out. He can't afford to lose. This is it. The fight coming in. EMP lands on every single Viper, but the lurkers are closing the distance on the bio army. The cloak goes underneath. No parasitic bomb to stop The total retreat in the medevacs. A lot of the tanks were taken down. The rest will be finished off. A couple were able to retreat to the high ground. So Reynor shreds most of the army that was left to shred, but everything else is better off than it was if it were dead. The lengths we go to for poetry are far too long and too dramatic. Because essentially, he needed those Vipers. He needed to not get EMP'd. That was a critical mistake in what otherwise was a great fight for Reynor. He needed to get those medevacs along with all the bio underneath, or most of it at least. Reynor needs a great fight with a worse army composition than he's had most of the game. Maru is taking it slower now, as he's secured a forward position. The lurker... No, oh, God. Here come the ghosts. This is it. This is all he's got. The snipes on the retreat. Once they connect, they're gonna land. There is no retreating once the snipe has started, unless you stop the ghost. The scans are going to ensure they go through. And the gap is starting to widen. The income and the army supply diverging more and more heavily in favor of Reynor. The only time you can play with significantly less army supply is if you have the income, and that time has passed. Those lurkers just dealt with. Handled. Reynor, a pathetic attack. As he loses his key base, and with it, Maru turns it all the way around. Reynor looking strong when he can take the initiative, but so does Maru. And with it, he finishes off Reynor, turning it around. Maru with the decisive place. And that was... That was a great... I want to make an extra point on how great that series was. Because there was no... I think the only thing that's going to be a counterexample to keep in mind is that attack into the tanks. But that was barely anything. There were no mistakes, really, in that series. There was no like, oh, come on, you shouldn't have done that. It was slight degrees of maybe you shouldn't fight there or exactly at this time, but... They both, like... It came down to the execution. Like, the Widowmine drops, as annoying as they are, as difficult, like, but there are ways to deal with them. And Reynor wasn't perfect. Maru wasn't perfect on it. But there was a whole lot of exactly how much did this strat do? And how do we work off that? And they're both so good at what they do. One of the best, highest level series I've seen. And Maru takes it, and he forces the games into where he's comfortable, and he wins those. Reynor not able to keep up. He wins 3-2. Maru maintains. And now if only he would stop winning, finally Terran would get the buffs that they need. Unfortunately, though, Maru, the winner again. Hopefully you enjoyed my breakdown and my take on it. I did. So that's something. I like my own video. I'll do it. You could. But I will. I actually usually don't. I'm too lazy. But if you did, check out all these other videos as well. And give me some love in the chat. And tell me about how Reynor's essentially just a diamond player with a lot of APM. But thank you guys for watching. Good luck. And have fun.